9 ng ating Psych 111. So, our topic is all about emotions. So, ano ba yung emotions? Kasi, oftentimes, we just feel, may emotional ako ngayon, emotion na yan. So, but in a deeper sense, in terms of psychology or in academics, what is actually emotion? So, the word emotion is derived from the Latin word emovere. So, there is this movement, meaning to move out or conveys idea of outward expression or something inside, which is one aspect of emotion. Yan pala yung meaning ng emotion. It means you are moving out something deep inside in you up to action. So, di ba, lahat ng ginagawa natin, it's just an emotion at first. So, we're just moving it out and conveys an idea or outward expression of something inside of us. So, all emotion have at least 4 aspects. So, first is personal emotion experiences, meaning those characteristic of emotion which the person consciously feels, knows, and can describe verbally. Yan yung mga emotional personal experiences. The second is physiological or bodily changes that occurs during emotional. Okay? Third is behavior person, how he acts and how he does. Fourth is motivational aspects. Di ba? Namomotivate tayo pag may emotion na nakalakip dyan. Okay? So, we know our own feelings through the process of introspection. Meaning, we already know this. You are introspection, your own self. Ano yan? And you feel that. We look into our emotional experiences, so to speak, and are able to feel and know consciously. If we like, we may report our feelings to someone else. So since we are so often aware of our feelings, we tend to jump the conclusions that emotions are always conscious. So, di ba, oftentimes, pag na-feel natin, feeling natin conscious tayo. But ang emotion lang ba, conscious lang ba siya? Sa conscious lang ba siya nangyayari habang conscious tayo? How about those unconscious urges na nasa atin? So, however, just as we have awareness of such feelings, there are other affective states that they develop which we have little or no conscious awareness. So, example, may mga emotions tayong hindi natin makukontrol. When you blush, namumula ka, nag-smile ka lang agad-agad, hindi mo nalaman. Parang biglaan to That was an urge emotion actually. Might be it is subconscious, nakatago siya. Bakit hindi ko ba to control? Emotion ko naman to. Akala ko conscious to. Hindi po. Oftentimes, there is also a subconscious. Diba sabi ni Freud, diba? Aside from we have conscious, we have already subconsciousness. Kung sa iceberg pa, nakatago ang laki ng ice na yan. Trend has found that children sometimes have an intense and unconscious hatred to their parents. Totoo ba? So, he demonstrates these facts in adult patients by using psychoanalysis to bring their conscious these feelings. So, sabi nga dito, di ba, oftentimes naman na hindi natin lang sinasabi or hindi na tayo makapagsabi hanggang sometimes kasi yung mga nangyayari sa buhay natin, pag hindi natin yan pinapansin, na meron pa tayong hatred na, hindi natin sinusolve kaagad, tumatago yan sa heart mo, nagiging wicked yung heart mo. And it becomes your unconscious. Oftentimes na lang, kahit hindi ka galit sa taong yan, but pag may nangyaring similar situation na, katulad ng similar situation na, doon ka nagalit, napahiya ka, bakit ka nagagalit sa taong yan? Because long ago before, may tinago ka, may nirepress kang emotions na hindi mo sinolve. That's your conscious. Ang laking problema dyan. So there are other times when we know our emotion, but prepare to keep others from knowing it. All of us have developed a certain skill in masking the overt expression of how we feel. So, we like mask. There are times of great sorrow when we hold back our tears and force to smile. There are other times in your life na gustong umiyak emotionally, pero itawa ko na lang to. There are times when we should like to lash out in anger, but instead, we stand immobile and try to appear calm. Okay? Other times na napigilan mo yung emotion mo na ganyan. So, John B. Watson defined emotions as hereditary pattern reactions involving profound changes of bodily mechanism as a whole, but particularly the visceral and gradual system. Sabi nga dito, it is hereditary pattern, meaning na inherit sa'yo pag anak mo, hereditary. So accordingly, it changes our bodily mechanisms. Di ba? May mga times na pag galit yung emotion mo, parang sumisimangot ka, bodily mechanisms na nangyayari. Yung emotions mo, nakala mo na idea lang, na emotions lang, na feeling, nakaka-affect siya sa'yo. Di ba oftentimes sinasabihan din ng mga cliche, huwag kang masyadong magalitin, baka ma-high blood ka nga. So it turns na huwag kang masyadong magalitin as emotion, baka ma-high blood ka, it impacts your bodily processes. No? Huwag kang masyadong mag-smile, baka hindi ka na, maging masaya ka. O, ganon. So, Hbse card treats emotion as part of the background of mental life. Emotions are defined as organic readjustments. Sabi pa nga niya. In this instance, the organic readjustment involves mobilization of energy to aid individual, involve efforts to overcome obstacles. So, ganyan talaga when we put emotion to that, oftentimes, may nangyayaring maganda. The quickened falls, the withdrawal of blood from viscera, more rapid respiration and other bodily changes enable organisms to react more energetically and vigorously. So emotions are stirring up states of organisms and are conscious feeling too. As such, they are rich, varied, concrete, and personal. They are also considered responses, both internal and external. And then, sabi pa nga dito, emotional state range from the mild affective states of pleasantness and unpleasantness to more intense states. So, they vary from the mild dissatisfaction up to most complete panic. So, yun yung emotion natin. Actually, may mga times na gusto kang tumawa, medyo ang saya pa sa deep inside mo. Hanggang hindi mo na napigilan. Up to more complex and more halata ka siya hanggang so, nag-smile ka na. Okay? The more intense states can be classified into those are pleasant as joy, hope, affection, and those unpleasant anger, fear, and grief. Physiological reactions in emotion, ano yung mga physiological reactions natin? So when an emotion-producing situation or stimulus is encountered, pag may nakita tayong mga sitwasyon dyan that stimulates us, the organism's response all over. The whole system is involved. Means sensory messages react the hypothalamus sa mind natin, and here nervous impulses sets up extinctive or learning patterns of behavior. Neutral messages are relayed to the muscles. Many of the bodily changes in emotion are under the control of the autonomic nervous system. So this system, itong autonomic, this system is connected with the central nervous system, but in many ways independent of it. The automatic nervous system is composed of two principal divisions. Ano to? The sympathetic and parasympathetic division. So, sympathetic division is located along each side of spinal column and composed of chain of ganglia. Each ganglion being a cluster of nerve cell, these ganglia send out motor fibers to various organs in the body. While the parasympathetic division is divided into two parts. Take note to this. The cranial part, which consists of nerves from the brain, and the sacral part, which consists of nerves and leaves the lowest part, the spinal cords. So in general, sympathetic division takes over in times of emergencies. So yung sympathetic pala in times of emergencies or stress, pala sa emergency tayo, ito yung gumagana. When we are experiencing an emotion such as fear or rage, while the parasympathetic division is more active during relatively calm periods or situation, which bodily vegetative, for example, while sleeping, relaxing, digesting, and storing food. The two divisions work together in balanced manner. The balanced action of two results in the orderly function of the body. The following are the physiological changes that takes place during emotion. Una, galvanic skin response. Whenever emotions are aroused, electrical change take over in the skin. Detect ng galvanometer ng GSR is sensitive indicator to change emotional state. Blood pressure and volume, changes in blood. Heart rate, in terms of our heart rate. Respiration, when we breathe air. Pupillary sense, in terms in our eye. Sometimes pag nakita kayo, dumadilit kagad yung mata natin, lumalaki. No? Because it touch our emotions. Salivary, in terms of nakita tayong pagkain dyan, naging emotions yan, naglalaway kaagad tayo. Pilomotor response, pimples, as physical type cold appears sometimes creepy feeling. Gastrointestinal motility, the movements of stomach and intestine are affected by strong emotions. Example, ang sarap niyan, ang sarap kainin niyan. So, ito yung physiological na nangyari. Muscle tension, pag may magagalit tayo, ang mukha natin nababago. And blood composition. So, sabi pa nga dito, here is the killer's spelograph as used as lie detector test. So, sabi pa nga dito, ang tinetest talaga ng lie detector test is your emotion. No, example, you have the knowledge of the crime. Tinetest yung emotion mo, ano kayo mangyayari? Tumataas ba yung high blood mo? Pag tinatanong ka ng bagay na yan, pag may crime ka in lie detector test. But there is critic in lie detector test. Why? Because lie detector test is those person who have the knowledge of the crime. Meaning, alam nila yung crime nila. Pag tanungin sila, medyo kumakaba sila. How about those people who have emotional problems such as in psychological problems, meaning yung mga psychopath, na hindi nila alam anong ginawa nila. At pag tinanong mo sa lie detector test, walang nangyayari. Walang kwenta kasi nga, they don't have that emotion. Okay? Hindi sila maka-feel. So we have here classes of emotional reactions. Ano yung mga emotional reactions natin? We have fear. No? Natatakot tayo. No? And so these bodily sensations attributable to the activation of autonomic nervous system, meaning founder of the blood, napapound yung dugo mo, natatakot ka, sinking feeling of stomach, trembling, natatakot ka, weakness, faintness, tension. And also we have here fear and anger. So the primary occasion of anger is thwarting of goal-seeking activity. Nagagalit ka when some situation or other person unduly limits the freedom, pinipigilan ka, medyo nagagalit ka. He may then attack, meron siya attack or fight pag nagagalit siya. So, nagkakameron ng aggression. Also, we have depressive reaction of grief. So, the situation giving rise to depressive or grief reaction seems very similar to those produce anger. Parang same lang siya in terms of anger and grief. So, the major differences lang nila, it seems to be that there is more of an element of finality in depressive than in anger situation. Okay? So, sabi dito, emotional development mo. Ano yung nangyayari sa'yo? Kasi ang emotion na natin, nade-develop. Example, sa mga bagay-bagay na yan, emotional ka pa dyan, hanggang lumaki ka na, hindi ka na medyo natatouch dyan, attach sa mga bagay, nakakontrol mo na yung emotion nyo. So, there is this emotional development. Baka dito, umiiyak ka pa, pag mga ganyan, hanggang sa darating yung time na bata ka pa noon, nakakaya mo siya, marunong ka nang tumawa. Sabi pa nga dito, when I was a baby, I smiled because my mommy looked at me. So, emotional expression developed through learning and maturation. So, sabi ko nga, habang tumatanda ka, there is this emotional development, emotional maturity. Nakokontrol mo na yung emotion mo. Hindi na yung emotion mo yung nagiging master sa buhay mo, you control it, you beat it. Okay, so of course, you love is an emotion. Love involves shifting a focusing of strong positive upon a particular person. Is likely to have sexual desire as an important component. Although many people consciously claim to feel love which has no sexual element naman. So, ano pang mga feelings na? Emotional development. Expression develops through maturation and learning. So, sabi ko nga, nade-develop yung example, yung infant cries sa pagkabata. As you grow older, he learns to cry for a purpose na. Hindi na yung walang, sa pagkain lang, iniiyak ka na ng bata. So, also we have here a table na sabi dito is changes in emotion during life cycle. So, sa pagkabata ka pa, masyado kang distress. Pag may excitement ka, habang tumatanda ka na in terms of maturity, ito na yung nafe-feel mo, anxiety, depression, anxiety-filled. So, ito na yung process niya. So, infancy niya, undifferentiated response, random behavior, distress, undifferentiated process of differentiation integration. So, na-differentiate mo siya, ito, galit to, fear to, shame to. Hanggang sumaabot ka na sa maturity mo. Okay? So, ganon. So, fear is a very common emotion. At first, this is aroused by any strange stimulus presented. Later, it comes for threats, harm. In adolescence, it's primarily connected in social situations Anger is stimulated by any frustration. Frustrate ka. Nagagalit ka. So also in the process of emotional development, different persons react differently. So tama nga naman since we are different people, even twins nga, to emotional stimulation. Example, pinakita ka ng bagay na yan, iba na sumasaya. Ang iba pala may nafe-feel, may nakikita sa bagay na yan before in their past na nagagalit sila. Emotional reactions are brief in children. But in adolescents and adults, they are more prolonged. So, pag bata ka pala, yung emotional reactions mo, in a specific time na naging emotional ka dyan, nagalit ka kasi hindi ka binigyan ng pagkain. Pag nabigyan ka na ng pagkain, nawawala bigla. Pero delikado yung pag-adult ka na kasi if there is this emotional reaction, it tends to prolong. Di ba may mga prolonged emotions tayo na ang dali natin magalit and oftentimes yung anger na yan, tumatagal. No, hindi po, katulad ng pagkabata natin, nagagalit tayo sa father natin kasi walang pagkain. Bigyan lang tayo ng candy, ang sayanan natin. So, emotions just died up. So, habang lumalaki pala tayo, no, we treasure emotion. So, delikado yan. Okay, so the situations giving rise to emotional response change over the course of emotional development. Some persons react more strongly to mild stimuli than others. Di ba, may mga times na same stimuli na nakikita mo, pinakita sa inyo. Same lang yung reaction mo, regular lang. Yung iba, parang nasasabi natin OA, hindi natin pwede sabihin OA. Maybe because we are different individually. Some persons are considered emotional and oftentimes we call it emotional, OA, overacting. So the characteristic level of emotional response and reactivity of a person is called temperament. So maybe iba tayong temperament, ganon-ganon. Sometimes the feeling tone lingers on for a period of time. And this is called mood. Moody ka. May mood. Ano yung mood mo ngayon? That's moody. Meaning, this tone lingers for a period of time. Diba? Tinatawag nito yung mood. Yan yung mood mo. Yan yung tawag sa nagiging feeling mo pang matagalan na. Diba? Iba yung mood mo ngayon . Other milder states may be in forms of interest, attitudes, and prejudice. So, in general, emotional development from infancy through emotional maturity is characterized by increasing variety and richness of emotional experiences. Of course, we also have facial expression sa emotion. Example, pag masaya tayo, ano yung facial expression mo pag masaya ka? Smile, ganon. Pag galit ka, ano yung emotional expression mo? Maybe namumugnot yung kilay mo, yung mata mo medyo galit, medyo lumalaki, and parang napupukas ka sa isang tao and maybe lumalaki yung ilong mo. Okay? And maybe nangungunot yung facial mo. In normal social conversation, we can more or less successfully follow effective effects of our words than our others by careful observation of his face. In a barometer of his emotions, sometimes giving warning to our words are so strong, or sometimes reassuring that our listener are displeased. So, di ba, tinitignan kasi natin yung emotion sa isang tao, depende sa mukha niya. Okay? Pero, I disagree somehow. May mga open times kasi na may pinapakita na facial expression ng isang tao, pero iba yung emotions niya. And we must have that discerning. Okay? So, but there are times na nakikita mo naman talaga yung emotions sa isang tao because oftentimes there are people who cannot kasi ganito kasi merong emotions and body language. And oftentimes yung body language natin, hindi natin siya nakokontrol. Example, galit ka, namumugnot ka agad yung kilay mo, tumataas yung kilay mo. And oftentimes, dumating ba sa point ng life mo na pag galit ka, naisip mo, tataas ba ako ng kilay o hindi? But oftentimes, may mga tao hindi makakapag-control ng mga facial expressions, body language, because of their emotions. And we can also say, and absolutely, and maybe sometimes, na ang emotions talaga natin can trigger our facial expressions or body language natin. We can say. So, emotions can facilitate behavior, sabi ko nga. A strong emotion can facilitate behavior when strong exertion and protracted efforts are required. The football player who is emotionally excited plays with his greatest skill. So, may mga times na ganyan, na sobrang emotional yung player. May nakita akong yung sa soccer, no? Marami na silang matalo. Tapos nagbago kagad yung emotion niya, pati yung mukha, naka-goal siya. So, ang emotion niya, that facilitates his behavior, ang galing niya sumipa nun. So emotions as habit and motive. So emotions can function in human life both in habits, when learned, reactions, and motives. As habits naman, they are acquired. May mga habits na acquired because of our emotions. When situation is associated regularly with an emotion through conditioning, so the emotion is developed. So as motives, emotions serve to direct an individual to certain goals. The person who has developed fear of high places or falling grades can guide and direct his behavior who can avoid high places and cause falling grade. So, how about theories in emotion? We have here James Lange's theory. This theory proposed that emotional experiences occurs after bodily changes. Okay? So, pag nag-change na yung body mo, doon na yung nag-occur ang emotion. So, the sequence of events is emotional states are first, perception of situational which produces emotion. Second, reaction to the situation. Third is perception of the reaction is the basis of emotional experience. Okay? So, meron tayong perception dito, meron tayong motor reaction sa body natin. Next, meron arousal and emotion daw. Cannon-Bard's Autonomic theory. The Autonomic theory holds that the nervous impulses coming into hypothalamus from receptors stimulate the center sense impulses in the cortex and visual simultaneously. So, the arrival of impulses in the cortex gives to the conscious experience of the emotions. So, sabi pa nga dito, pag may perception na, pupunta sa hypothalamic arousal, nagkakaroon ng arousal, pag we perceive something, and it becomes our emotion, visceral arousal. Also, cognitive theory of emotions, this theory states that emotions which we feel is an interpretation of stirred up bodily states. So, ganon. How about emotions and health? Does emotions affects our health? So, may marinig tayong mag-cliche, di ba? Huwag kang masyadong magalitin. Yung emotions mo, pigilan mo. Baka magkasakit ka yan. Baka ma-high blood ka. So, there, yung emotions is magalit equates sa cliche na baka magkasakit ka. Is it true? Tignan natin. All emotions contribute usefully to the quality and type adjustment to human beings. It contributes pala. Pero in what extent up to the health ba? Though emotions can facilitate behavior, they can also cause trouble. The individual can learn emotional responses that are inconvenient or debilitating. Or he can get himself into situations that produce persisting emotions which can interfere seriously with the normal functioning of his body through continuous physiological process. Emotional responses may be maladaptive reactions. In phobias are unreasonable morbid fears that may interfere with normal adjustment. Common forms of phobia, claustrophobia, zoophobia, necrophobia, and acrophobia. Long continuing emotions may produce actual damage to the body. Tama nga. It contributes pala. So, kasi pag nagagalit tayo, di ba? And yung emotions na hindi natin napipigilan, tumataas kasi yung pagpitik ng dugo natin, yung blood pressure. So, malaki yung chances na magka-high blood ka or atakihin ka po sa puso. Mostly kasi sa mga na-high blood pressure o inatake sa puso, there is this situation sa life na nagalit sila o na-shock sila and inatake sila. And indeed, totoo pala na emotions can trigger your health, even maka-apekto sa'yo. Long continuing emotions will produce actual damage to the body, actual changes in the body that are produced by psychological rather than organic factors are known psychosomatic ailments. Psychosomatics reactions include migraine, peptic ulcer, asthma, obesity, high blood pressure, neurodermatitis, and other. So we have here a question to study. So what is emotion? What is temperament? What is mode? Iba kasi yan sila. Second, what bodily changes takes place during an emotional excitement? Third, differentiate James Lange theory from Cannon-Bard's Autonomic theory. Fourth, name the kinds of phobias that are common. Ito pala. What are the effects of emotions to one's health? Suggestions for further readings? Can we read this? And thank you sa klase natin ngayon. Mag-study tayo.